Hello, and welcome back to Writing with Witches, the podcast where a couple of witches sit around and talk about writing books and throw in the occasional witchy tip just because.
Yep.
So, I'm one of your hosts. I'm Leona Urbanski. I'm a debut author with my book coming out next month, Fire Magic, the first book of the Deathgate trilogy. And my co-host is
I am Nicole Autumn. I am the author of the Secret Society series that is now completed and working on other projects.
Yes. We're so
Yes.
happy.
I know.
So, today, we are continuing our world building mini series,
Hmm.
and we are looking at societal constructs. So, that is going to be quite a fun one. And I think this is the last one of the mini series. This is the last world building mini series.
I believe so.
So, keep up with the mini series. We've put a lot of information about world building in there, running the gamut from your physical landscape to now we're getting into society and culture. So
Yeah. The fun stuff. Where you
the
can really
fun
make,
stuff.
yeah, you can really make your stuff unique at this point.
I mean, it should be somewhat unique already, but yeah, this is definitely getting into the
Yeah.
finer details.
Yeah. This is where you can really make it stand out in its differentiation from other worlds.
Exactly. But before we dive headfirst into this, do you have any book news?
Book news. I have this last week, I was sick. My children were sick. We got hit with neurovirus. So I didn't get a whole lot of writing done. But when I was feeling better on the up and up, I was able to do some rearranging of some stuff in my Casper novel to really make the plot points line up now. There were some spots missing where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this jump to here, and I think I figured it out. So now that I'm feeling
Yay!
better and my kids are feeling better, this next week I'm going to be like diving in headfirst and just writing. So I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Any book news for you?
I have officially plotted out one of my books. So I now have two first drafts completely plotted out, which is great. I just need to get to writing on them. And I am still working on getting Fey Touch rewritten. So that's three on my plate amongst many other things. But things have sort of settled down in my life right now. So I'm hoping something else may be happening soon. So I'm hoping that I have more time for writing. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. Because
So
I love reading all of your stuff. And I'm like itching to get
I
something new out of you.
every time I say, "Hey, I might have written this," I get the gimme gif from Nicole. So
Yeah. Let me read. I want to read.
yeah, so yeah, between her and Alex, we sorted out where this work is going to go. So I have it all plotted out.
I am
Two
excited to
pages worth of
see.
notes.
Two
I need to get
pages.
it on the Miro board.
I'm excited to see where it goes. I really am.
Yeah, Silas and Sheena are some different characters from my usual.
Yeah.
She just wants
So
me to write the book with the smut. That's all there is to it.
I can't help it. I am just a smut connoisseur, okay? I must read and consume as much as possible to make my heart happy.
Hey, it's your choice there.
So
Alrighty, that's all
should
I
we
had.
I was going to say, so should we jump into this week's episode?
Sounds like a plan. I'm sorry, I'm tired.
No, you're
I'm trying
good.
not to yawn.
You're fine. So we're talking about societal constructs. And what I mean by that is the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of this is an idea that has been created or accepted by the people in a society. And from my understanding, just to give a little more to that, is it kind of helps categorize and explain or make sense of the natural world around us that is can seem fairly chaotic if you don't have structures in place to make sense of it. At least that's my understanding of a societal construct.
Humans love. Sorry, I saw a cat.
Yep.
People and humans love to have order in their world, and doing these societal constructs is one way for us to do that. Okay, this is makes sense here, this makes sense there, this makes sense there. So
Yeah.
be able to do that.
So, at a base level, right, we'll start with the singular. So, the person. Identity is big. We've all seen this very big, even in our world, of trying to have these constructs that help us understand who we are and all that stuff. So, the first one would be age, right? Age is technically a societal construct in deciding how old someone really is. And that you can really play with that in your world depending on how time works, which that will come up later. But age is a huge one, and how in your books, when you're writing, how you're going to have your character's age and what marks their age.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of reasons to acknowledge what age someone is. Is it the when they are allowed to marry, when they are allowed to go hunting, when they are allowed to join a council? So all of those kinds of things. And right alongside with age, you can add in, are there any ceremonies to celebrate a coming of age? Do they have to prove anything in order to prove they are mature enough and capable enough to be of that age? So there's all kinds of things in society that revolves around age. And okay, I'm good. I'm just going to say age is not just a number.
Until you're an adult.
Yeah, yeah.
Until you are well an
So
adult. Yeah.
it is an integral part of identity, and there are certain thresholds that you reach that society has decided that means you are of that age.
Yeah. Another one would be race and ethnicity. As much as these can be dictated by where you live, that's pretty much it. Where you live can decide, or the color of your skin can decide your race or ethnicity. But if there are no borders and everyone is roughly the same color, there's nothing to distinguish there. So those are societal constructs, and if you decide within your world that you do want ethnicities or races and you decide to form these, there is that option, and you can get creative with it. Race doesn't necessarily have to be skin tone when it comes to a fantasy or sci-fi world. It could be whole different species, essentially. So you can get creative with races and ethnicities because ethnicity is based off of a border, and borders change all the time. So, again, another societal construct that you can play with when it comes to characters and who they are as an individual.
And you can also play with it, like you said. They can be whole different. Classic example is D&D. They call them races when they're technically different species. Like a dragonborn is a whole other species from a human or an elf. And if you're in that fantasy world, I'm going to lean into that a little bit just because that's where I tend to write. Is how compatible are these species? How much do they intermingle, and how much can they procreate together? Can there be a half dragonborn, half human? I don't know. It's your world. You make up your mind about it. But it's that kind of thoughts. And so if these two races slash species procreate, how are the children treated? That is a kind of ethnicity barrier to look at. Are they treated well? Are they treated poorly? Are they looked down upon by both races? So it's it's the Romeo and Juliet of races, maybe, if you want. That they're not supposed to intermingle, and when they do, it's not seen as a good thing. So you could go that way, or you could go, hey, they get married all the time. It's not a big deal. That's in the Deathgate world with fire magic. Humans and dragons have children all the time. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty common. Like, and it's been common for a long time.
That's kind of sick. I'm not gonna lie. I love that concept.
So,
Yeah. Um, Another one when it comes to identity is gender. We've seen recently within the last few decades, that gender has come up into question a lot, and what decides your gender and fluidity of that. So in your fantasy world, again, we're going to lean into fantasy because we both write fantasy. So whatever you decide on how to portray genders, if you portray genders, that's entirely up to you. But that's, one more thing to add another element to your world of making it different, or if you want to stick with it, tweak it, whatever you want to do. But gender is another one that I don't know where I was going with that last sentence.
I mean, and it's
I was going and
if
it
you
got lost.
we um
Yep.
it's if you take it from this world, gender is a spectrum. I mean, you can have people that are gender neutral one day and feminine the next day, or some people stick with just feminine or masculine. It's a spectrum. And you can take that and you can transplant that over into your fantasy world if you want. And you can decide how that's received. Is that going to be received like it's received in our world sometimes with criticism and disbelief and the prejudice against it? Or are they going to be accepting of it and it doesn't bother anybody? I have a character that doesn't show up until the second book that's totally gender neutral. They use they, them pronouns. Really confused my readers for a while until I explained it.
It did. It confused me at first. I was like, am I reading this right? But yeah.
um, I have a character that shows up in the first book that's transsexual, transition from masculine to feminine. And so it's you can take those concepts and put them into your books and decide how it's received. And also be aware if you do that, that does kind of send a message to your reader on how you're treating those issues, especially in today's society and how that is going to be received. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I was trying to think of something, if there was anything else I wanted to say. Um, yeah. So next would be currency, right? In most worlds, currency is a thing. You have to be able to pay for something. Even if you decide, they don't have actual money. So that is the first thing. What forms of currency are they going to have? Are they going to have, gold coins? Are they going to deal in rough cut gems, or are they going to have silver and copper, or paper bills? Whatever you decide, you have to figure out what form of currency your characters are going to be using. So yes, deciding forms of currency would be a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean you have to, how valuable are things to people that they are willing to take that, or maybe you don't have currency. Maybe they're purely on a barter system or like a favor system. Maybe the society they're in, they trade on favors and they have that good faith in someone that the debt will be fulfilled. Maybe one farmer promises to help another farmer with their fall harvest if they help them with their spring harvest, and they have faith that that will be fulfilled. So it definitely, currency is definitely a more common form of trade, and it should definitely be something you consider. But it also depends on the society that you have built up as well. And like you said, it could be coins. Deathgate uses the rough cut gems. Um, if you're in sci-fi, it's credits, right?
Right? Yeah. I mean, for all the credits, it could be, maybe they're trading electric parts or old technology that is no longer found. or hard to get their hands on, or you know, you can make up whatever you want. And I was going to mention the barter system if you didn't, because I was like, oh, bartering, man.
Yeah.
It took me a second, and then you were like, or you could barter. I was like, yes, I want to give 5 chickens for your goat, type of situation.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, the good faith system would be another good one. Favors go a long way in fantasy novels, and hitting up someone like, hey, remember that one time I did you this favor? Now I need it in return. So,
Yep.
and in that, if you decide to, like we said, you owe me a favor, you're in now debt. What kinds of debt is going to be in your world? Is there going to be a form of debt in it? Because typically, if you're giving favors or bartering or money, there is a chance that you could end up in debt. Is that something that is even involved in your world? Hell, I wish it wasn't in ours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is also another thing. Will there be debt? How much debt? The types?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Um,
It's
yeah.
And who's recording that? Who's keeping track of that? Is this being tracked just by the people around them? Is there some piece in the government that is tracking it for them? Is there a bank? Maybe there's a bank that's tracking the debt in the big city. Maybe there's a bank that hoards gold coins. Hell, maybe it's a dragon. The dragon keeps track of the debt that you owe them. That would be a hell of a thing.
Could you imagine going into debt and having a freaking dragon knocking on your door? Give me my gold. And you're like, oh shit, I better pay this guy.
Collect on this debt.
Yeah. Another thing that is money related, but it also has to do with society as a whole. Are you going to have those different tiers of wealth? Are you going to have super poor, no money, living on the streets in rags, and super wealthy, where these would be like your billionaires? They have tons of money. They live in extremely extravagant homes and throw these lavish parties. Are you going to have that kind of system, or is this going to be where there is no wealth, like, tiers? I'm trying to think of the word, but I can't think of it.
Disparity.
Yeah. So, are you going to have that type of system set up? Or is it kind of like everyone's kind of at the same level? Everyone is, helping with community situations, money wise. Like you said, if this is a barter system, there is no real money wealth situation. It's more what you can do for someone in exchange for another service or a different good that you can provide. So it's more level-ish than being ultra wealthy and super poor.
And the more people you have gathered together, and we're talking cities, the more likely you're going to have that line between the wealthy and the poor. There are too many people to be able to work on that good faith system, because you can't have everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows that so and so owes this person, or so and so needs to pay back this person. There's just too many people. Even if you have it in sci-fi with someone monitoring everything and everyone, when you have larger groups of people, it's just too many. So more than likely, if you're talking about having the story take place in a larger city with hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people in this gathering located in this one place, you are probably going to have some kind of disparity between the wealthy and the poor.
Yeah. And then, say you do decide you're going to have these big wealth gaps, right? How are your really ultra wealthy supposed to work? Is it like how we would like, the wealthy pay their fair share to help take care of, things like roads and programs that, the less fortunate use? Are they like the philanthropists, essentially? Like, is there a moral standard that they are expected to do that? Or are they the stinking, greedy, rich? You know what I mean.
We've cursed here before. I don't know why we're stopping now.
I don't know. I don't need to send it off a big red flare for the a-holes to come in here and be like, don't you talk about, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
anyways, are they going to help take care of the society around them because they have the means to do it? Or are they going to be greedy and sit on top of their piles and mounds of wealth and just snub their nose down at the rest of the peasants?
Yeah. Yeah. Human nature. Unfortunately, you're not going to find many of the philanthropists, and maybe that's a reflection of the society that we grew up in, and that's how I think about it. Maybe your society's better. Maybe those philanthropists are a common thing, and government makes them pay their fair share, and they don't have these mountains upon mountains of hoarded wealth, unless they're a dragon, I guess. So
It's their
it's
job.
definitely that's their job. Although, remember, in the language of dragons, those hordes were taxed.
I mean, it's only fair.
So,
Um, so going back out to a more broad topic, would be time. How is time measured in your world? Is it by hours? Are you keeping the same 24-hour day that we have? Or are you looking at making it a 20-hour day? If they even call it hours, like, you can get very creative and real, like, granular here in deciding how time is displayed or how it works in your novels. And I mean, there's been ones that have come out recently where they really mess with time, and it can get kind of trippy. And it's a little mind bending, but it makes it interesting because it isn't just the regular time that we're used to. Or do you want it like that so it's easier to comprehend and grounds your story a little more for your readers?
and keep in mind two things that came up to me with this. One of them is in a culture that is pre-industrial, while it is certainly possible and doable, it is harder to keep track of time. Because most of the time, uh, they're using candles or water clocks or something along those lines. They don't have the mechanics and the powered watches that we have in a industrial era. So keep that in mind. And the other thing to think about, and this is relating to anything really, it is good to have elements in your fantasy world that are different and that are unique because that makes them stand out. But be aware, every new element that you introduce, you do need to explain.
Yeah.
So, my advice is to kind of keep it at an even keel. Leave enough things that are a common ground for your readers to understand without you having to go through and explain every single thing. And then have enough in there that makes it different enough and you are explaining it, kind of thing. Um, so that your book isn't just an instruction manual on your world and you have room for the plot and the story and the character development.
Yeah.
So, something to think about.
Yeah. Something that would be a little bit easier to track would be day cycles. And we did touch on this when we talked about landscapes and like the physical aspects of your world. And this is going to have to do with how many suns you have, how many moons you have, and like how they're measuring time. So that is another thing to consider. Your day cycle will probably be a lot easier to calculate than like literal hours if it's, like you said, pre-industrial. So you get to decide what that day cycle looks like, night cycle, and how long your years are. I mean, we have 365 days, you know. So it's up to you how many you do in yours. And again, like you said, every little thing you change, you have to explain. So, or you could just keep it real vague and be like, yeah, it's this time of the day. It's midday.
Yep, yeah, that's what I did. Uh,
Keep it simple.
another keep it simple. Another thing that you also have to remember, especially in this pre-industrial society before we had electric lights and constant power and that kind of thing, is that people were much more aware of the natural cycle of the world. Like I'm sitting here right this moment, I couldn't tell you, are we approaching a full moon? Did we just pass a new moon? Is it a crescent moon right now? I have no idea because I haven't looked outside lately. And that is what we can get away with in this kind of world, in this kind of society. However, when you have a society that's not like that, people are going to be much more cognizant. They're going to be much more aware of the natural world and where you're at in that year. So, do they know that it's coming up on the harvest time? Yeah, probably. They know what phase of moon they're in if they're keeping, if depending on how they keep track of it, if they keep track of it by moon cycles. Um, they are going to have a much better internal sense of time and um, just time in general because they are going to be that much more intertwined and in tune with the natural world than someone that locks themselves away for 48 hours to write would be.
Think of like your great grandma when she said her knees starting to hurt and she knew it was going to rain. That type of situation. There people that are more in tune with nature just can tell when things are shifting. Like I knew someone that was like, I'm getting a headache. I know we're having a storm coming because of
Mhm.
barometric pressure changes. Like I was just like, that's nuts. How did you tell that? So again, yeah, they are going to have a better sense of the world around them in terms of time and even weather changes. They're just going to have a natural sense to those things because they are outside more. They are in their world far more than we are. Just,
Yes, yes, they are.
yeah. But also when we were talking about time and stuff, something that is kind of cultural but also very determined on time, are holidays. Are you going to have holidays? And this can get real fun. I mean, you can get real quirky with it, with random holidays like, if you really think about it, Easter is kind of a crazy holiday.
Yeah.
Bunnies laying eggs, that doesn't happen. But, so you could get real funny with your holidays and what time of the year that they happen, and if your characters run into these holidays or festivals. I know we're reading, the Wheel of Time series, and they talk about all kinds of different festivals happening, and some are cultural and local, and some are like more nationally recognized. I don't know how to explain that because I'm not sure. Like what they call each. Is it in? I don't know. Anyways, so you can get real creative with your holidays. Maybe you have some really depressing ass holidays. I don't know. Real sad ones. We do. But then we barbecue on them and say, hey, this is all fun and games, drink and barbecue. Even though
Okay.
probably shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
So, yeah. Make it what you want.
And also keep in mind if you've already thought of your religion, and I know I'm jumping ahead just a little bit here, but
Yeah.
if you already have deities in place, there are probably going to be holidays literally come from the word holy days, which means you are worshiping something typically. So,
Yeah.
or it is considered holy in some way. And deities in your world are probably going to be involved in that. So, that's something that kind of ties itself together and you can keep in mind as you're working through making these holidays.
Yeah. Um Speaking of holidays and religion, that brings us to our witchy tip. And because we are talking about societal constructs and with that, religious practices. And we wanted to talk about respecting closed practices, which is real simple. If you're not a part of the religion, you didn't grow up in it, you were not initiated into it by someone that was in it, just stay out of it. Don't do
Mm-hmm.
it. Simple.
And be aware that some of the practices that people try to say are common today, honeypot, smudging, using white sage, those are really part of closed practices.
Mm-hmm.
So just be aware before you do a spell, before you do something that you think, oh, that looks cool, find out where it came from.
Yeah.
It's usually pretty easy to find out what practice it came from. If it's in a closed practice, like Nicole said, if you haven't been initiated, if you haven't been invited, if you didn't grow up in it, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's not your place.
Some of the ones that we have thought of right off the bat that we knew that were closed practices. If you guys know any extras, be free to drop them down below. Voodoo, hoodoo, Santeria, any Native American practice, and that can vary because of from tribe to tribe. As well as brujeria. I can't get my R right now. Roll my R's. And Santeria. Those are ones that we could think of right off the top of the out of the hat. You know, close practice. Don't insert yourself. And typically with these, they have their own sets of deities. Don't reach out to them. Just don't do it. It's not your place. It won't end well for you. So that's what we have to say on that. Just stay out of it.
Yeah. If you're not in it and you haven't been invited in it, stay out of it.
Yep. Cool. Onwards.
Alrighty. Onward ho.
Yes. There was a real quick and dirty witchy tip for you guys this time. Which now we're going to lean into the cultural side of world building. Which there's when I was looking this up, there are so many different things that are considered societal constructs. My tongue was getting twisted there. First one being cultural practices, right? And this can vary as a whole, like your entire world does this, or it could be as granular as per town, per village, city. It's really up to you. It could be per family when it comes to cultural practices. So you can really decide and go nuts here in what is considered a cultural practice. One of those could be tied into holidays. Again, it could be religious. It could be a cultural thing where it is regional. You can go free reign here. Like you could come up with some really neat things.
I'm just going to insert this that has everything to do with world building and nothing specifically about what we're talking about right now. If you ever want to get good at world building and get fast at it, go be a game master for a tabletop RPG. As someone that just ran a session today, the shit I was pulling out of my ass to make things work and to
Farmer
make
John.
it believable.
Or Farmer Joe.
Farmer Joe with his son Richard. Nicole was part of the DM session earlier today, D&D session earlier today. That's why she knows what I'm talking about. All of this stuff that we're about to talk about is stuff you have to think about when you are a game master, or if you're playing D&D, specifically a dungeon master. So back to the normally scheduled conversation, but that is just a tip. If you ever want to get good at world building and you want to get fast at it, find a group and you be the, I know everyone says be the player because it's more fun, But if you want to practice being an author and building a world, specifically a fantasy world, go be a dungeon master, game master,
Yeah.
whatever you choose with that. Anyway, cultural practices. I agree entirely with you. It can be focused around any group of people. Hell, it could be just one person has their own practices that they've practiced since they've grown up and
Yep.
it's individual to them. Or it could be the whole world because maybe once every 10 years, all 4 moons are eclipsed.
That'd be sick.
That would be
That would be
sick.
something to celebrate. That would be something to have festivals over.
So, yeah, could be from one person to the whole world.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and they could be so little, like for example, not St. Patrick's Day, right? That is something that can vary from person to person or household to household, but typically it's like, okay, we're having some form of like corned beef and cabbage, whether that's in soup form or stew form or whatever. People are drinking Irish beers, and the saying is like everyone's Irish on St. Patrick's Day. That is a cultural practice. It does have religious ties, but as time has gone on, it's kind of broken away from that and now is just a cultural celebration. So, I mean, hell, even the Irish get in on it and they're just like, yeah, it's St. Patty's Day. And they're just, so it's something that is, it's just there. You know what I mean? Or, you know, Chinese New Year just passed. That is a cultural practice that is Chinese based. So there are so many different influences that you can take from our world, not copy or cultural appropriate, but take inspiration from, right? That you can put into your own world and make it something different and really just bring your society as a whole to life. Because those are the little things that may go unnoticed, but it fills out your world and gives it a more full feeling and not so flat and two-dimensional. Cultural stuff.
Yeah, cultural shit.
Cultural shit, yo. No.
Not where I was going, but I'll accept it.
uh Also, another thing would be etiquette, right? How many times have we watched movies or, and they're holding books on their head and they're sitting at tables and sitting there trying to learn the proper etiquette? Does your world have a proper etiquette? Is, in one form of the world, slurping your soup is considered rude and gross and, oh my gosh, you heathen. Where in another part of the world, they take that as, oh my gosh, they're enjoying my food, because they don't even try to be quiet. They're just like, ooh, this is good. Like, I'm slurping this stuff up. So what is a form of etiquette in your world? Are they eating with their hands? Are they using utensils? Those are all little forms of etiquette that you could also bring into your world.
And you can also go with big forms of etiquette. And the example I'm going to bring up is the John Wick films. There is huge etiquette in that world on who is allowed to attack who in what place, and that is considered etiquette. They are like, they have to have those rules in order to function in that world that was built in those films. So it could definitely go down just, again, you can go all the way down to the granular single person and small things like slurping your soup to, you're not allowed to kill this person on this particular piece of property, but feel free anywhere else.
I mean, that's fair.
That's a piece of etiquette in the John Wick world, right?
I mean, yeah,
So,
the throwing the glove down at someone is technically a form of etiquette. You're challenging someone. So these are all just practices of a form of etiquette that you can bring into your world and get fancy with.
mhm.
And then another one would be beauty standards. This can be a big one. What is considered beautiful in your world? What is not considered beautiful? This can get a little dicey depending on what you do. So be mindful when you're deciding, your beauty standards. If you even want to include that, that's entirely up to you. Um, but that is an option to include in your world is beauty standards.
And also remember, different groups in your world may consider different things in their beauty standards. Like in the Deathgate world, mages carry their magic in their hair. You're never going to see a mage without long hair unless something really drastic happened. So that is considered beautiful. The longer the hair they have, technically they consider that beautiful because that is just a trend that is in their world. But if you are not a mage and you see someone with long hair, you're like, that's a mage, and that's a bad thing. So long hair is kind of considered ugly, especially on men
Mm,
in the Deathgate world, if you are not a mage.
yeah.
Um, that is the Duchess Eva kind of looks down on her sons because two of them carry magic in their hair, and their hair is waist length, and she considers that ugly
Yeah.
because she is not a mage, and she shows it.
She's
She
prejudiced towards them
she
too.
is very scornful about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she is so scornful of it that she does not even bother to inform her daughter why she will not allow her to braid her hair.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, different groups of people can consider different things beautiful.
Yeah. Depending on who they are, where they're from, it all plays a
Mm-hmm.
part. Um, and then we did talk about this a little bit when it came to money, but there are different forms of hierarchy. That is a societal construct. You know, putting certain people in boxes and deciding their worth based off of one category about a person and placing others above that, are you going to have any forms of hierarchy in your world? You just explained one, you know, with being a mage and having long hair. There's prejudice there, and they are seen as less than because of it. So there is forms of like these made up hierarchies in some people's world or their minds because of things that have happened in the past or whatever. So are you going to have these forms of hierarchy in your world? Are they going to be based on money or hair color or length or, you know, if you want to, skin color? That can get dicey. Be careful there. But there are these forms of hierarchy that you can play with and incorporate into your world.
Powers is another factor that you could take into that too. Like it's
Yeah.
not just the physical, it could also be, do they have some kind of innate power, and you decide, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Where does that put them in the hierarchy? Does that elevate them or does that demean them?
Yeah. That's true. I didn't think about the power right offhand.
I'm
My
always
brain.
thinking about the power.
The magic, the
That's like,
power.
that's the main prejudice in my book.
Yeah. See, and that's where yours stands out, where mine, they're like, it's all done in secret, but everyone knows that there's something going on. So there wasn't real prejudice there because of it. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing would be morality. What is considered moral in your world? You know, is it moral to go out and, you know, go slaughter people for your gods or something? And you're like, that is the moral thing to do. That's what's right. Or is that looked down upon? You know, in our world, we're like, that's a little nuts. So maybe don't do that. Is stealing wrong? Is lying wrong? You know, there are certain morals that you can play with and tweak and decide, okay, well, is this society going to think this is good? Or what about this? So those are another element that morality, that could be a real fun one, especially, you know, morally gray characters are popular. So people are towing the line of deciding, you know, what should be moral and what shouldn't, and is there a good reason for certain decisions. So yeah, it's another one you could play with.
And when you think to yourself, "Oh, lying and stealing is never right, and you can never justify it," there just now in The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan, there is a whole city that functions on lies, and it is absolutely moral for you to lie about something in order to play the great game, as they put it. And that's a
Yep.
fairly common form of politics, not gonna lie. You don't expect politicians to tell the truth. That is
Yep.
just a fact in this world right now and in that one.
Yeah. and they would think you're suspicious if you're not lying. If you tell the truth, they're going to assume it's a lie, because why would you tell the truth when everyone else lies? So, that is one that you could say. Or like you said, stealing is never right. Well, what if you're stealing something from a bad person that's going to do a bad thing with it, and you decide, well, the only way I'm going to get rid of this is I have to steal it? Or,
What if
you're hungry, you steal. You got to eat.
What if you're stealing something back that was stolen from your family generations ago?
Yeah. So,
It might be
morality,
kept in a museum or something.
there you go. Heist. I mean, I feel like morality would be a fun one to play with for sure, because I feel like morals are great to have, but there's always a good reason to break them in certain situations, and that could be real fun to play with. Then prejudices. We've talked about this. Again, this could be one that could get dicey depending on what you pick. But prejudices happen. It is natural for people to pick out differences and separate. Now, that doesn't mean it's always right, but that is something that people like to naturally do as a whole. You have to then, go past your lizard brain and decide, okay, well, we're not going to treat people differently because of it. But there will be prejudices everywhere. I mean, you name it, there's probably a prejudice for it. Hair color, eye color, power levels, money levels, or how much someone has or doesn't have. There's always a prejudice for something.
How physically able the person is.
Yeah.
Do they have a disability?
Are they super ripped? And you're just like, fuck that guy.
I mean, to be fair, sometimes literally to get the money. So
there's that morality again. No, I'm just kidding.
You're not wrong. Whatever. You are not wrong.
There it is. Another one would be virtue. What is considered virtuous? Is patience, kindness, are those virtues? Or are those something that people look down upon and think you're weak because of them? So maybe instead of being kind and patient, being brutal and, swift with your punishments, that's considered a virtue. So that's another fun one that you can play with in your worlds, and what people look at as something to hold up on a pillar and say, this is the example and this is how you should be.
Maybe you were raised to think that you need to cut through the bullshit, so you pull out a sword on a little gnome shopkeeper.
It wasn't me.
That's your virtue.
It wasn't me. Yeah, I mean, maybe intimidation is something that is held in high esteem in your culture. Being able to cut through the shit and get the answers and, no tiptoeing around. We're getting straight to the issue. You never know what your characters or what that society holds as being a virtue. I mean, you used a good example of, in the great game. Lying is a virtue at that point. Being able to lie and lying well only serves you well. So, yeah.
Yep. And that's just politics and court politics and yeah.
The next one, which is a good fun one. How does your society treat and discuss work around sex? Is this something that is seen as natural, beautiful? It should be shared amongst everyone, Or is it very reserved? Is it kept private, behind closed doors, quiet, hush, hush, we don't talk about it? That's a fun one also, that can alter a society so much. Just that one topic of sex can change everything in how people see things in your world.
And one thing to kind of consider with that is kind of the housing situation. If you have a group of people that a whole family lives together in one house that doesn't really have any walls, it's an open house, you're probably going to treat sex as a pretty natural thing. Because I doubt
Yeah.
that other people being around is going to stop a married couple or a couple that just want to have sex to go at it. Because that's
Yeah.
how they grew up. That's what they lived in. So
I
just
mean,
kind of something
yeah.
to think about there too.
I mean, a good example of that was I remember watching the show Vikings, and there were two couples, or the couple was inside getting it on, and the kid was sitting outside, and he's like, "Yeah, they're inside having sex. I gotta wait." Like, it was so natural for him to say that, and they were like, "Oh, okay." Like, the adult that asked him a question where his dad was, he was like, "Oh, cool. All right. I guess we'll wait." Like, it was just so natural and common for them that it was like not a big deal. Or, you could be like Victoria England, where, damn, show an ankle and you're scandalous. You dirty slut.
Yeah.
There's so many routes that you could take, and it could definitely shape a lot, especially if you're traveling. Like, what if it's not acceptable for unmarried couples to travel together and be sleeping in the same room together? And it throws up red flags, and, whispers are happening, and it's a scandal. You never know. So,
What if you end up in the inn that only has one room left with a single bed? How is that treated? I know
oh,
it's a trope and we all love that trope, but how is that going to be treated inside? Even if they don't actually do anything, if they just sleep in the bed together and that's all they do is sleep, how is that going to be viewed? God, I use that a lot with my characters though. They sleep in the same bed and it gets so awkward and then they finally have sex. But
we have to make it awkward for them.
yes,
Force them to
yes.
sleep. Or,
So
maybe,
yeah.
yeah, maybe there's that, or they're like automatically assuming, oh, you guys are together. Yeah, it's like one room, one bed. You guys are getting dirty. There is that option. Or, maybe it's a group of people and they're like, I see what's going down. Orgies. you never know, and you get to shape that in your world, and that could be really funny and lead to some comic relief in some funny places. So, can you imagine
Yeah,
though, the
it's
innkeeper just orgies? I see it.
I mean, Brenda does travel with three men. Just saying.
Those innkeepers are like, we know what you guys are doing, even though that's definitely not what's happening.
No, it's not.
Definitely not what's happening. um we did touch on this one last episode, which is religion. Religion is a societal construct, whether you want to believe it or not. We make that shit up. So do with that what you will. I don't think we were going to touch on it much this episode, purely because last episode we did touch on it. So that, and then I would say our last one would be government. Government is a societal construct to create laws and order and punish those who break said laws and order. So, well, at least that's what it's supposed to be. We're not seeing much of that lately, are we? No.
Historical context, we're filming this middle of February, just for anyone that wonders.
Yeah. A lot of shit is happening and no one is in jail yet. It's pissing me off.
Middle of February 2026, the world went to shit.
It's lovely here. We love it. This hellscape. Yeah. Government, you get to decide how just or corrupt they are, what laws there are, what things law and government is involved with. So, yeah. Fun. Government.
And you can go all kinds of way with government. Don't restrict yourself to just the popular forms. Look into other, because as much as people like to deride, Native Americans had governments. They had laws and order. Now, it may not look like ours, but
Yeah.
they had it and they had their reasons for doing it. So, you know, feel free to go out on limb on stuff. Again,
Yeah.
also do remember the more people you have involved, the less likely you're going to have good faith because there's always going to be the liars and the assholes. But
Yeah.
you could try.
I mean, that is true. Yes. There are very many different forms of government. And I was like, watched a video about bonobos and how their society together forms and how they function. And you could look at animals. I mean, we see wolves used all the time, right? We see the shifters and werewolf packs and alphas and omega. Like, there's that hierarchy, that structure, and there's laws within it. So it is its own form of governance amongst a pack. So you can get creative with it. You don't have to look specifically at human governments. Animals are a good place to look at too if you are looking for something different. You know, there's penguins, there's all kinds of places that you can look for inspiration on something different and go from there.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that brings us to the end of this one.
Yeah, it does. I believe so.
Yeah. So that's the end of our societal constructs episode. Um, I know there's probably a lot more that we could have touched on, but for time's sake, and I figured we hit the major ones. Um, so yeah, I think
But if
we.
you want us to go into any more detail on anything, drop a comment and let us know, and we can definitely do a deep dive on some of these.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, but that would bring us to book reviews, and unfortunately, because I was sick most of last week, I didn't get a whole lot of reading done between, you know, my many trips to the bathroom and dealing with children as well. So, yeah.
You were doing a lot of laundry.
I was. I have, and I'm still doing a lot of laundry. The amount of beds I had to strip. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. So, do you have a book review this week?
Yes,
Another book,
I do.
another horse book.
I have been on the trend lately. I have finished up. You're gonna see it for one more review after this, and then I have wrapped up my little binge reading of um, YA horse books. So you
Okay.
only have to deal with one more after this, and the next one is brutal. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it is crazy ass shit. But anyway, this one is not. This one
That was funny.
This one is called The Wild One by Terry Farley. As far as I know, not related to the Farleys that wrote the Black Stallion series, because I did look that up specifically to see if they were related, and I cannot find anything that says they were related. But still, it is book one of the Phantom Stallion series. And this book focuses on a girl named Sam Forster who grew up on a range in Montana, but a 2 years ago, oh, I'm sorry, Nevada, not Montana, Nevada. There is a difference. 2 years ago, Sam got thrown off a horse, got a pretty nasty concussion, and went to live with her aunt in San Francisco to have the medical assistance available to her because she did kind of live out in the wilds of Nevada where there weren't a lot of, really high sophisticated hospitals, and they wanted to make sure that the concussion didn't affect her because she was pretty young. Um, but this is 2 years after that happened, and she's returning to her home in Nevada, and she hears about a horse that they named the Phantom Stallion. And she sees this horse named the Phantom Stallion, and she realizes that it's the horse that threw her 2 years ago. And the horse that threw her 2 years ago was named Blackie. It was a black horse and she had basically raised this horse, and he had spooked and he had thrown her. She didn't blame him, but he had taken off and they had never caught him again. And in the past 2 years, the black horse has turned gray, which is a pretty normal phenomenon among horses when it's a gray horse, and has turned into this phantom stallion. And this book is all about Sam resettling into Nevada, finding and realizing that Blackie is the Phantom Stallion, and dealing with all of the issues that come up that. And of course, there is an antagonist, a rich guy that's pretending to be a cowboy that wants to capture the Phantom Stallion just to say he could, kind of thing. And she's having to work against him. But I think really it's about Sam finding her place in the farm again. And it's also dealing with the long-term effects of a concussion, because she does have these fears sometimes that she forgot something and she's like, was this just me forgetting or was this a result of the concussion?
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of a fascinating aspect to bring into it, because there are long-term effects. Even a single concussion,
Yeah.
a traumatic brain injury, TBIs, can mess with you for the rest of your life. I have a friend that has a TBI, and she still is dealing with she still has vertigo, nasty vertigo. She can't bend over because of it to this day.
That's rough.
And this brain injury happened 5 or 6 years ago. So, anyway, I thought it was an interesting aspect to bring into the book, because it is also a common injury among equestrians, especially in the western side of the world or on the ranches where people don't wear the helmets. And
Yeah.
it's a common practice to ride without helmets. So something to think about. I enjoyed it. It was what I expected. It was a YA book about horses. There's always the girl with her special horse that no one else can get near, and all this stuff. And to be fair, Carrie Farley did put in some good reasons as to why she had this special bond with the horse. She also put in how it was used against the horse in Sam. So that was an interesting aspect of it. And the Sam realizing this horse is never going to be hers again because he's feral. He's been out in the wild for 2 years. He's never going to be tame again. So it was sort of what I expected, but there were some surprising aspects to it, which tells me that Terry Farley actually did go out and spend some time on these ranches and on the farms and learned about horses realistically and what you can expect and not expect from a horse.
Well, that's cool.
So, yeah, if you liked Black Stallion, you'll probably like Phantom Stallion. It is from the point of view of Sam, who I think is 13 or 14. I don't remember. In that age range. She wasn't 16 yet. I know that. She wasn't driving yet.
Suck to have a concussion that young and be questioning if you remember shit or not. I'm 32 and me questioning my own freaking memory sometimes sucks. So being that young, ugh, poor thing.
Yeah. I had a concussion when I was 16.
Jeez.
I blacked out coming off the horse. And
Damn.
I've had probably 2 or 3 more concussions since then. And as an equestrian, you just kind of pick up and keep going, especially at that age when you're still, kind of made of rubber and you're bouncy a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not made of rubber no more.
No.
I don't bounce no more. I just hit the ground.
You're like, ow.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, it was an interesting aspect to bring into what you would normally think is a run of the mill horse girl book.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll definitely give her that.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of this episode. You can find us at writingwithwitches.com, and you can email us at writingwithwitches@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky, and TikTok, all as Writing with Witches. And we do have a Discord server. So if you would like to join and chit chat with us, maybe you want to ask questions about an episode, you can feel free to jump in there and talk with us, hang out. So you can find me at all the aforementioned places as author Nicole Autumn. I have my website, newsletter, buy me a coffee, my Discord server. All of that is all linked down below in my link tree. And Leona?
You are going to mainly find me on Facebook and Instagram as Leona Urbanski Author, or you can find me at my website, leonaurbanskiauthor.com, or my Substack, leonaurbanskiauthor.substack.com, where I try to send out monthly newsletters. I'm trying. But yes, sign up for the Substacks because when they come out, I have more concept art to show you. And it is
Yes.
turning out amazing. And Carrie actually looks really hot, which I didn't expect.
Right? Like, first off, let's give Carrie his due because he was a snack. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
absolutely.
excuse me? Who are you? And then when she's drawing Keen, him and his big ass biceps, I'm just like, excuse me, I know you don't have a face yet, but those biceps and shoulders, sir. God damn.
He is a blacksmith.
It fits. It fits the narrative, and I'm digging it. So next episode, we will be discussing creating believable villains. So that'll be something fun to tune into next week. Thank you all for watching or listening to this podcast this week, and we hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.